You've taken your notes, done your homework, and passed your exam. Now, welcome to Dynasty 101. What is going on, guys? We are the Average Rose Fantasy Show, your one-stop shop for average advice, brought to you by Football, Darts, and Fantasy Sports Alliance. As always, I'm joined by the below-average Kevin. Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing just about average, just like any other Tuesday night. Glad to be back with everybody.
Yes, we came out of the blue. We were going bi-weekly, but now we decided to pop our beautiful faces in for another show. And of course, before we get into our show tonight and before we answer these lovely comments here, we would like to thank our broadcast sponsor, Football Darts. Football Darts is a dart game that combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple target dartboard. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, as league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your home. If you would like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, please go on over to footballdarts.com. And I didn't forget this, make sure you guys use code IPLAYFSA to get 30% off your order. Who doesn't love 30%? I'm out of breath already, Kevin. I was expecting you to start talking.
That was your part to keep going, buddy. You got to get some exercise in, I guess.
Okay, fine. I'll keep it going. So first off, we have Maria out there saying hello, guys. Hello, Maria. Welcome to the show tonight. And then we have my beautiful girlfriend, not just saying it because she's in the next room over and she's going to kick my butt.
Because she paid you.
Yes, because... No, I can't say that. I can't say that.
I can.
Well, yeah, you can. And of course, if you guys like the show, please like, share, and subscribe to the show and follow us on all of our social media outlets, which you can see at the bottom of the screen here, as well as check out our website, fsa-fr.com, if you guys aren't a member and you guys would like to sign up. And of course, please head on over and check out Brad, Josh, and Eric on the Empty Wagon Show Saturday morning at midnight Eastern Standard Time, and it's beginning. And as well as make sure you guys enter into our giveaway. We are selecting one lucky winner to win a t-shirt of their choosing. I know our stat guy was supposed to announce a winner tomorrow, but of course, family does come before football for some people. So we'll be announcing our winner next week on the Fanatically Real broadcast. All you guys have to do is head on over to Twitch and follow our new Twitch channel at fantasy_sports_alliance, as well as share the channel to either Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and tag our account on there. Now, if you guys don't manage to win the giveaway, we are still giving you guys an amazing, beautiful, and tasty treat. We are also giving you guys 10% off on our limited edition Quan for the Win, Angry Commish, or our Let's Go t-shirt. Just use code FANATIC at checkout and get yourselves some above average merch. And Brittany says, Kevin can. So you have the seal of approval that you can say that.
It's nice. I already told you that. Well, tonight, as our title mentions, and as we previewed in Josh's long-winded spiel there, we are going to preview Dynasty and go through a Dynasty 101 course, similar to what we did 2 weeks back in our fantasy preview. For those that may have been new to fantasy or wanted a refresher on fantasy as it related to FSA, we'll be doing the same here tonight with Dynasty only, going through some tips and tricks, some strategy ideas, and just general know-how about the Dynasty world. We have a bunch of questions that were given to us by our fans watching at home, so we do appreciate all of those that sent those into us. But in addition, if you're watching us live and would like something answered, please throw a comment out there. We will pop it up on screen just like this here. Sean is with us. He says he made it. Welcome, Sean. Hope you're having a great evening. And I apologize for how average it's about to get. Um,
And
Josh.
I would like to just add that yes, this is about Dynasty, but if you guys aren't in Dynasty, it's still good to know. Maybe you guys could get interested in Dynasty after watching this or listening to this. And then, just like Kevin said, if you guys are already in Dynasty, yes, our advice is average, but take it as you will. So, like Kevin said, 2 weeks ago, we did our Fantasy 101 class where we kind of answered you guys' questions. So the first question that I'm going to kick tonight off with is just the beginning of it all. What is Dynasty in football?
So, as we mentioned a couple weeks ago, there's two different chains, big umbrellas in the fantasy world. There is Dynasty and there's Redraft. In Redraft, you start with a new team every year, or you redraft a team every year. You don't keep the same players. Dynasty is just the opposite. There is one big draft at the beginning, or a startup, as most people call it, a startup draft. And every year after, you have the same team. So in year one for FSA, there will be a 28 round draft, and you will have 28 members on your team. The following year, you have those same 28 players outside of anybody that you add or drop or trade away, but you keep the same team every year. And then you have a rookie draft, which we'll get into in a minute, which encompasses any new rookies that are entering the league, as well as free agents.
And then to piggyback off of that question, why should I join a Dynasty team? Or why should I own a Dynasty team?
For me, this one's a little tough, right? Because you join for a couple of reasons. Either A, you're a long-standing fantasy player and you want to just try something new, something a little bit more challenging, because the teams are a little bit more in depth. You do have more roster spots, so you have to know more players, or should know more players, I should say, to make yourself well versed on each roster. Um, you also have a more realistic NFL feel because there are draft picks that get traded. You do keep players year over year, and it's very trade centric. There's more that happens in a dynasty than a redraft. Or you could be on the opposite end of things and say, hey, don't want to be involved as much, right? And you can just say, I would just want to draft one time, do a small draft versus checking in on players year over year. I don't want to lose my people. I go out and I do a redraft in September, and if I do good, bad, and different, I lose the team, and I don't want that. I want to keep the guys I have just because I like those players, and I want to keep having them. You would join a dynasty for that reason.
Yeah, so for me, it would be the first reason is pretty much, you're a long-standing fantasy football player, and I just like it because of the how complex it is, because there's more things that come into play with doing a dynasty. Number one being age. I mean, players who drafted, first of all, Drew Brees. You had him for one season, did all right, got you where you needed to go, but now he retired. So now you have to find a guy to fill his spot. So that's where the whole dynasty aspect comes into it, and the realism comes into it. And so you have age that comes into play. If people get injured and they're out for the season, such as Saquon, I mean, yes, he's going to be back next season, but now you have to worry about you just wasted your first round pick on this guy. Is he going to be worth that first round pick come the time that he comes back? So, like I said, I just like how complex, and also I just like the off season too. The off season is, so interactive. It keeps, members together with trades and just football talk in general.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It also promotes a lot of camaraderie because you do keep the same 12 people year over year, or try to. So just like myself and Josh are in FSA's Charlie League. We played together last year. We'll play again together this year and every year after. You do have a couple of drop-offs. Some people lose interest or just don't know how to play or aren't competitive. They might be in too many leagues, so they drop their least favorite. Whatever the reason is, you do have some turnover, less in Dynasty than in Redraft. We call those teams orphans. So if you hear the term orphan team, that just means somebody did not come back to that team, and that hole needs to be filled with a new owner.
We have Damien here saying you build awesome relationships in a dynasty league format long term. I 100% agree with you, and I know as much as a rival, my average brother here is with you. I know he can agree with that as well.
Yeah, that's definitely correct. I mean, if you're not in our Discord chat or any of our other social medias, I know sometimes we go back and forth on Twitter. Um, you build long lasting relationships with people. Myself and Damien will be the first to tell you that we've actually started our relationship uh, going back and forth in Dynasty. He was in Bravo and we were in Charlie. And before Delta was ever a thing and we ever played against each other, I looked in and I saw what Damien was doing because last year was our first year playing in Dynasty, and I saw how well he graded players and his perspective on the long draft was. So I reached out to him initially to get his opinion on certain things, and then the rest is history. But still wish him no luck in anything he does fantasy related.
So I know we talked about orphan teams when people just lose interest in dynasty, or they just they try it for a year and they think that it's just not for them. So that kind of brings me into the next question: is it better to pick up an orphan team or to just start fresh?
I think this one's a tough one to answer, right? Because it's really all about preference and it's all about what's on that orphan team. So preferably, I would rather draft fresh, right? I would rather have a brand new team year over year. I want to pick how my team starts. But we did have a dynasty team this year, one out of our four different dynasties. So you can do the math on that. I don't feel like it. Uh, we had one team as an orphan.
48.
Yeah, one out of 48 that was orphan that was picked up by Mario and the now Orlando Thunder. Um, he picked up a team that had the first overall pick in the rookie dynasty or rookie draft, I should say. So he was able to turn that around and make a couple of trades and was able to build up an orphan team that looked like it wasn't really all that great and turn it into something. So he may prefer that because you can already take a good team and not have to worry about going through a draft and making any drafting mistakes or worry about you know trades and things of that nature. If you want to take something that's got kind of a base to it, that may be your route. But for me personally, I like the drafting process. I want to be in control of the 28 rounds. So I would prefer to start in the startup format.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. Personally, I would like a startup. And I think it's just all opinion based on, Dynasty is a challenge as it is because of the year after year play style. But also like to go into a dynasty and then to take an orphan team, that's just like the extra challenge. I mean, you can walk into a team that say Mario walked into, or you could actually just walk into a really good team. And like I said, the guy just kind of lost interest. So it all just depends on the challenge that you want with Dynasty.
Yeah, Damien checks back in with us and says orphan teams bring an extra layer of difficulty. Most more veteran owners look to take on those types of challenges just to challenge themselves as an owner. That's definitely true and a
Yes.
valid point.
Yes. Like I said, it all depends on the difficulty you want.
Exactly.
And then also to stay with the orphan theme here, we have a question that says, what happens if my league has orphans or abandoned teams that don't sell? So there's no owners that come in and pick up that team.
Yeah, as I don't know, I can't speak to other dynasties. I can only tell you about FSA because that's all I play in. For FSA's perspective, I can tell you that that won't happen. It would take a whole lot of people to not come back for that to happen. Being that we started 2 brand new dynasties this year with 24 new players across them. So even if we didn't add a new one and we were just filling holes, that's 24 net new players that would take over any of those teams. I doubt that FSA would ever have that many orphans. So I don't see that ever personally happening to be an issue.
We have Sean checking in with us saying or asking me, who am I drafting? First of all, I don't even know when I'm drafting, but whether it's the
Oh yeah,
101.
your guys' draft selection, so it didn't happen yet.
No, we're still actually picking team names. I just found out today that I actually can't use my team, unfortunately, because XFL just wanted to start putting trademarks on their team again. So be it. But once we have our draft selection show, I can probably give you an answer.
Do you want me to go? Do you want me to tell you what team to take?
I had a second team in mind, but if you want to give me
why don't you go?
Suggestion.
Yeah, why don't you go with the Tampa Bay Bandits, whose owner was Burt Reynolds, and Burt Reynolds is played on Celebrity Jeopardy as Turd Ferguson. So there you go.
Damien says a dispersal draft helps fill leagues with multiple orphan teams in a given year.
That is definitely true. And for those who don't know what that is, that means say there is 4 or more teams, 1/3 of the league drops out. There's 4 orphans. Those 4 orphan teams will all go into a pool and redraft a full 28 from those orphan teams only. Now, if you are one of the remaining 8 teams, you can choose to basically orphan your own team and put it into the dispersal if you'd like, or you can just keep what you have.
So I actually like this question here because it does pertain to both of us, and I want to lead this one off real quick.
Okay.
It says, "Is it a good idea to co-manage a dynasty team?" I'm going to tell you guys no. And because my average brother and I both actually co-owned our Delta team. I was the owner and he was the coach. He made all my moves for me, and I just supervised him. And Kevin, what did we do? I actually I have Delta here right now. We ended up going 8-6.
That's not bad.
It's not first.
That's correct. It's not first.
So I know that I was kind of going around saying that I needed a new coach. So I'm taking offers.
So for me to answer this question, it's more of a funding issue and a new player strategy. So neither one of us had played Dynasty before, and we were looking to fill Delta at the time. So we both co-owned or co-managed our Delta team. That was partly to split the cost in half.
Wasn't
between
it
the two of us?
Wasn't it just because there was only one opening left?
Well, that too. There was only one opening left, and we both wanted to play, so we split the cost and joined together. The hard part with co-owning or co-managing is somebody always ends up running the team eventually. Somebody is doing more than the other person. So in our case, I ended up managing the team. In more cases, I would go to Josh if, coaching the team. I would go to Josh if I had any trade scenarios that I wasn't sure on, and he would be my first line defense saying, "Hey, do you think this is good or not, or should we move this?" But eventually, especially this year, I have now since taken over the Delta team altogether, as Josh is moving into a second team on his own in Foxtrot.
And first of all, we have Maria saying, "Kevin, best strategy to win against Josh." Well, Kevin's always trying to beat me no matter what.
See, the best strategy to play against Josh is to hype up any Saints player or player that he likes and make him overvalue and draft them early. Make him think you're going to take him.
No. Actually, my thing,
That's gonna work.
My thing was always always, like, no matter how many rounds there were, if he was there, I would get him on the very last round, and it was Taysom
Taysom
Hill.
Hill.
Always.
Well, now you're gonna have to do it sooner than later.
Well, yeah, his stock went up. There's no Drew.
Yeah.
And Damien says, if you're extremely raw and really learning the in and outs of Dynasty and trades, it's nice to have someone you feel you can lean on. That's definitely 100% true. If you're new to Dynasty or even fantasy in general, it's always good to have a more veteran player or knowledgeable player who knows the game to be able to fall back on if you have any questions.
Well, I think that's where FSA really comes in handy, right? Because there is so many players within FSA in all of our different group chats.
Will you stop?
That there, there is so many great minds out there that you can reach out to that can help you. I believe we're over 70 plus people strong on Discord right now that are all pretty active that you could put trade ideas out to. You don't really have to mention the team names. Just say, hey, I was offered X player for X player, and everyone's going to give their opinion. I know Damien is really good with that. I know it's actually probably still going on right now as they were discussing it before we were coming on air. So, really great group of people to kind of help you out with the things as they go on. So there is real no need to have a second owner just for that reason alone if you are in a community as strong as FSA. But Damien does say that it's also dangerous because having too many people giving their opinions as well because of values can change those opinions since they're based around that person, which I believe is true. You kind of have to decipher on your own, take everything with a grain of salt, use what they're saying to help you make your decision, but don't base your decision solely on what those people say because they don't have the same value player to player as you.
Yeah, I'll take a step back and I'll just say, like, first of all, I 100% agree with you, and like it's to the point where like you guys can be in the same league, division, region, or anything. Like, say you and Damien in Delta. If you were to go into one of the group chats and just say, "Hey, I was offered this trade," and you're talking about like Delta, Damien would probably be one of the first ones to come out and say if it was a good trade or not, and give you his unbiased opinion on it. Like opinion first of all, and like I said, that's just how great FSA is like you guys can be going up against each other and everybody will just give you anything they have in their brain to help you out.
Yeah, the other thing is that you have to remember, and I know we're going to get into it in a minute probably around trades, is trades are very, very frequent in Dynasty only because of how weak um, the waiver pool is. You know, you have 28 players across 12 different teams, so they're really deep rosters. There's not many starters out there, so um, even if me and Josh are going into a trade, just communicate with them. There is a comment section on MFL to answer back on trades. There we do have Discord, so you can chat with people before you send trades. There is a counter button, so you can counter offers. You know, just be open and honest on where your value on your players and picks are compared to what you're trying to get out of the trade. If you do that, you should have no problem getting anything done and moving things forward. But if you kind of just shut down and don't really explain why you made a yes or no decision on a trade, that kind of hinders the process.
And we have Chris saying, Damien unbiased towards Kevin. Was that really a good example? I'm going to give both of them the benefit of the doubt. And I will say that it is a good example. You have two guys who are sworn rivals and everything. Kevin constantly says he wishes nothing but bad luck, or he wishes Damien no luck or something like that. And whenever either of them proposes a trade that was given to them, the other one will be there to give them their opinion. Like, I know you were doing the same thing just before our show.
Mm-hmm.
I know Damien was putting in the Discord about a trade that he was offered, and I know you were giving your opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I truly wish that Damien will walk across Legos daily, but that doesn't mean I still won't give him my great opinions. I mean, just today I made him an offer, $100 in Fab for Stephon Diggs. I thought that was really good. Okay,
And
I thought that was decent.
speaking of Fab, the long 4-letter word that I could never understand the meaning to, but now I do know what it means. We have a question here that says, "What kind of waiver system is used?"
So for FSA's Dynasty, it is Fab, then first come, first serve. What that means is it is a free agent acquisition budget. At the beginning of the Dynasty, you have $100 that you can go through and bid on players. So last year, Chase Claypool was probably undrafted in most leagues. Then he had a 30-point week throughout FSA and was a hot topic amongst most dynasty players. So you go out and you bid on him. If I only value him at a $20 bid and Josh values him at a $25 bid, he outbids me and he wins Chase Claypool. And that comes out of his free agent acquisition. That means he only has $75 left out of the 100. Now,
Also, go ahead.
say Josh does not pick up any more players. He only picked up the one. He has $75 left. That $75 does roll over till next year. So in that following season, he now has $175 in free agent acquisition budget. There is also an option for first come first serve. So say the waivers roll over on Sunday, after they clear and nobody bids on a player like Kalen Balaj, which will probably be out there at some point. If nobody bids on that player, he becomes an open free agent to be picked up for a $0 bid. And you can just have him because nobody else wanted him. Chris does ask if it is a blind bidding system. And yes, that is true. That it is blind. I have no idea what Josh is bidding or anyone else for that matter. I just have to pick out my best evaluation of the player and hope I value him higher than anybody else in that given week.
Which usually happens. So, and one.
Oh, that's probably for it's a minimum $1 bid. Yeah, minimum $1 bid on free agents.
Trying to go through these questions. Are you allowed to trade draft picks?
Yes. So you are allowed to trade draft picks as soon as you know your draft order in any given year. So Echo just had their draft selection show. If you know that you had the first overall pick, that means in every round you have the first, then 12th pick because it is a snake draft. So you have pick 101, then 2012. You can trade your picks in both the startup draft and then every year, therefore, after in the rookie draft, which there will be 4 rounds of. The rookie draft picks are based on where you finished the year prior. So if you are the worst placed team, you get pick 1 in round 1.
And Sean asks, what about third round reversal?
Yeah, so it is a third round reversal. That's a great point, Sean. So it does go, it flips back around in the third round. So it's 101, 112, 101, and then 101 again, I believe is how it works. It flips back around. You don't repeat
Is this
in the
for
third round.
the rookie draft or the startup draft?
Just the startup, not the rookie draft. That's straightforward.
Okay. Speaking of the rookie draft and what you're doing with your picks, what is the off-season process?
So for FSA, what happens is the season ends after the playoffs within the Dynasty. Then there is a break. Last season, it was until March 1st. After March 1st, the season's opened and you could pay. Once you paid, then you were allowed to start trading again as soon as March 1st. This upcoming season, we are looking to switch over to League Safe, which might speed things up as far as getting the league turned on sooner than later. So that is a question that we're going to have to bookmark and bring up with Brian because he will know more on when that opens back up again.
Yes, and just to kind of go more into like what should you do for your team. I mean, me personally, like when we hit the off season, March 1st came around, I paid and I had access to my team. I started getting rid of players that were retired. I started getting rid of players that I didn't feel would have the value in the next season, and I just started making trades. I believe in Charlie. I have the most trades right now. I think there was like 11 trades in Charlie last time I checked, and I believe like 7 or 8 of them were from me. But that's pretty much what the beginning of like March is pretty much. It's pretty much just trades. And yes, I see Damien's comment. Is that a challenge? I mean, if you want to make it a challenge, I would just go ahead and start trading. My whole team is probably like just about all changed up. And I know with just this past week, I am going to have to go on my dynasty team and I am going to have to drop Julian Edelman because I thought that he was going to be staying as a Patriot. But I know it's not any new news, but to anybody who doesn't know, Julian Edelman has been dropped by the Patriots as well as he has retired from the NFL.
Yeah, they released him for the purpose of saving the cap money in his plans for him to retire. So that is true. And as Josh mentioned, I do the same thing in the off season. As soon as I can trade. Personally, I don't want to go into the draft with more players than need be. I don't want to have to make more cuts later in the year. The your rosters do expand. It does go from 28 roster spots to 32 roster spots. That way you can use your 4 draft picks and not have to worry about cuts until the season actually starts because you do have to shrink back down to 28. But personally, what I did was I made sure that I cut all the loose ends, any players that I saw that would have no production, players that were tired, free agents I didn't see going to any good places. I cut them, and then I tried to make trades for draft picks to fill those holes.
So I don't know if you put up the comment, but Kim says, I am late, but I wanted to share that I got my awesome shirt. Yes, it's pink and that she loves it. I'm glad that you like it. I'm glad that it is that you think it is some above average merch. And we have Damien saying, same with Breeze. There's always a chance these players could flip flop. Well, I don't know.
I don't believe that's true. I don't think that's actually true. I think that if they sign their retirement release after the new league year, then they are retired for that season.
And also,
I
I
think
don't
that
think
if anything comes out beforehand, then they can change, just like Larry Fitzgerald. Apparently, Larry Fitzgerald is still out there to be signed. I thought he retired. But because any announcement was made before the new league year, he is not technically retired.
Well, I don't think Breeze can accumulate any fantasy points from the broadcast booth, but if that was a thing, then
yeah. Damien says Brett Favre says hold my beer. Yes, but again, it wasn't done in the same league year, though, right, Damien? I mean, you would probably know better than us, being a cheesehead yourself. But I believe there was a time difference there. I think that there was an announcement made the season prior, then come the new league year, he just renewed and then came back. I knew there was a year off in between him going to Minnesota too. So,
all right. So We kind of already went over how does a dynasty football league work. We already went over that. What round should you start drafting a rookie?
Well, it's funny that you should mention that because I have Delta Dynasty rookie or first
The
go
startup
startup
draft.
draft here. Yeah, that's what
There you
I'm
go.
looking for. So I will start off with this and say that um, when you go to draft a rookie, it is going to be all about your perception of how that rookie is going to do and impact their team. And I would say anybody outside of the first round that would not draft within, say, the top 8 rounds, maybe in Dynasty. That's just how I am personally. I would rather have proven players versus rookies personally. But you do have to remember because this is Dynasty, you do have those rookies as long as they're on your team. So next year and the following year, when they start to take off, if you're a person that drafted, say, Jalen Hurts last year, well, now he's a starter and he's on your team. You don't have to worry about him in a redraft situation because you may have gotten him late last season or late in last year's startup draft. But if we do take a look at Delta Dynasty's startup draft, last year the first rookie off the board was Burrow, taken in the second round
Which,
at 211.
and I think Burrow could be a good example on why it would be a bit of a reach to take a rookie that early is just because, I mean, look at what happened to Burrow. He was out for about half of the season, but he did put up points when he was playing. I will say that.
I mean, but it's also a double-edged sword, right? Because if you take a look at the team, this happens to be our team that we took Burrow. We also already had 3 other picks within the first 2 rounds. We had 4 picks in 2 rounds, if you're reading that. So he was our 4th pick in the first 2 rounds. Not necessarily bad value there, just happened to get hurt, which does lend well to Dynasty because we do hope he has a bounce back year this year and
But
we still have a decent quarterback.
doesn't lend well to the fact that we drafted Jarrett Stidham as our second QB, Ryan Fitzpatrick,
Well,
Taysom Hill, Nick Mullins in a super flex.
well, I mean, none of those quarterbacks are on our team anymore. Burrow's not. Stidham is for now. Fitzpatrick's not. Taysom is. Mullins is not. So
Good job. Good job. Now I know where my money's going.
correct. My pocket.
So yeah, I think it's all 100% opinion based on where you see that rookie being fit. And like Kevin said, we had Joe Burrow go at the 11th pick in the second round, and he was out for half of the season. But like I said, it's dynasty, so you keep him for the next year. And then also, as much as I don't like to bring his name up, Damian got Justin Jefferson with the 6th pick in the 8th round, and Justin Jefferson is pretty much a wide receiver 2 at this point, and can still go
No,
up to wide receiver 1.
I think he is a wide receiver 1. I put him in the top 12.
What do the points say? I'm going there now. I'm going there now. Okay, Justin Jefferson was number 7.
Okay, look at that, Nancy. Do some homework next time.
I still say wide receiver 2. You can quote me on it.
I just did quote you on it, and you're wrong. He quoted very wrongly.
I honestly don't know who this is. I haven't seen this Twitch name yet, but fringe wide receiver 1. Thank you. That's still wide receiver 2. It's like saying if somebody was almost a winner.
No, that's not. That's not saying wide receiver 2. Fringe 1 is still 1.
That's like saying somebody was almost a winner. They're not a winner. They were almost a winner.
No, no, it's not. You're wrong. Fringe 1 means that he's like 11 and 12 in the top round.
Oh my goodness.
Damien says he's a wide receiver 1. And we have another comment saying the records will show. I believe he broke Randy Moss's rookie records for receiving within the Vikings. So
Michael Thomas broke a record. Is he still wide receiver one?
that was 2 years ago. He was, yes. He didn't break a record last year. Maybe for
Yes.
most games sat.
That's because he breaks a record. People think he's wide receiver one, and then you see what happens. So anything could happen. I still think he's wide receiver two. He hasn't shown
On
me
to the
enough.
next question.
On to the next question. Is Justin Jefferson a wide receiver too?
Yes. On to the next question. Oh wait, God.
Yes, got him. How much?
You got me. You got me.
Okay, how much? Okay, serious question. How much value is added to a QB or tight end in a super flex and tight end premium league?
So for me personally, within my own research that I've done, regardless of premium or not, I always look to take the biggest value at quarterback in the third round. I think that's where you're going to get your most value. Now that can change in a dynasty because of trading picks. Okay, so I take a quarterback in the third round in redraft, that being my third pick. You can always trade up in Dynasty and have 3 picks in the first round, 3 picks in the first 2 rounds. So you can always get another quarterback or get a quarterback early. Now, with that being said, there is also what we call runs. A run is when multiple quarterbacks or multiple people in the same position are taken, and that forces your hand to take somebody at the same position so you don't lose value. So if we look at the draft board from last year in Delta, you see this happen very early on with running backs, right? So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 running backs taken in the first round. I assume that the Fargo Freeze, I know as Chris, did not want to take Mixon in the first round at 112, but his hand was probably forced to go that way because of how many other top running backs were taken. Now, the same can be said for us in the second round because you already had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks taken by the time our pick came around. So we took a quarterback because a lot of the decent ones were already off the board. So if you see a run happen, it forces your hand to overvalue or, draft somebody out of position.
And also, I know that like in a normal league, when you only have to start one quarterback, you usually get your quarterback, say maybe around 3 or 4, when you say you should take your starting quarterback, and then you kind of wait till near the end of the draft to take your second quarterback because it's pretty much just somebody that's going to be there for injuries, but you don't really worry about that in your draft, and a bye week filler. So now that you have to start 2 quarterbacks, you have to make sure you get 2 valuable starters.
Yeah, in a super flex, the key is to have 2 quarterbacks in the top 24. Is what you're looking at.
True.
1 in the top 12, and then worst case scenario, 1 in 13 to 24. And that would fill your roster nicely, personally.
Damien says
Now,
QBs
Damien
go
says
early.
that quarterbacks. Go ahead.
Yes. Damien says QBs go early and often in Superflex, unlike in a normal draft where the first QB likely isn't taken till mid to late second for a top guy like Mahomes. I haven't been in a normal draft in a while, so I wouldn't even know. Every draft that I've been in, Mahomes is usually top 2.
Yeah.
You can read his comments now.
Damien says that he tries to target 3 quarterbacks before round 10, 7 to 10, and he wants 2 by in the first 5 rounds. And I'm right there with him. I usually target 1 by the 3rd round and then 1 again in the 5th round to try to round out a nice team. So I do agree with you. What else we got there?
All right. So Kevin, when are you taking your first tight end in a tight end premium league?
In a tight end premium league, the first three tight ends, so this year it will be four, the top four tight ends. I would probably target one of them in the first two rounds, personally, because of how heavy the drop off is.
And we have our final question, and this is unrelated to Dynasty, and this is just as FSA as a whole. Has FSA considered doing a contract/salary league?
The answer is yes. We are looking to have at least one. If all things work well, I would like to have three of them go next year and replace any new startups in regular Dynasty. For those that don't know what a contract/salary Dynasty is, it is very similar to the dynasties that we currently run, except there's a cap on how long you can keep players. So you draft a normal 28 round draft, but then that player is then tagged with a 4 year long contract. That contract then runs out or can be renegotiated, or there's certain parameters in those different rule sets before they have to be released. So you don't get to keep Mahomes for 10 years, right? If you're running that dynasty for that long, he's capped at a certain amount of time. That way it keeps teams competitive year over year. And
Yeah,
it just adds another layer.
personally, I really like the idea. I know that for pretty much this whole season, I know me, Kevin, and the big man himself, Brian. We are all going to be chipping away at this to try and get something going, possibly for next year. And we have Zach saying, "Is Travis Kelce a god in a tight end premium points for first downs league?"
I would say yes, if you're looking at the first couple of years, I would say that he's starting to drop in dynasty value because of his age and tenure in the league. I think you'll start to see that fall off. I wouldn't necessarily say godlike or end all be all number one. I think guys like Darren Waller and Pitts will start to creep up into that and be on the same level as him. I think that whenever you're talking about tight end premium or tight ends in general, there's only going to be three or four in the top conversation. The rest are all kind of fill-ins week over week in any given round after that.
Yeah, I think that Kelce, if you're doing a redraft with him in a tight end premium, like I think that he's really good for this season. As far as dynasty, I mean, obviously I had him and I wanted to sell him while his stock was still high because I just had the opinion that he was going to drop in value this upcoming season.
I mean, if you take a look at what Damien says here, he was on the most winning rosters last season when it comes to tight ends. He is a game changer at the position. I would agree, but I feel like last year was a hard year to judge, right? Because you had a drop off with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goddard out of Philly, who is usually pretty good, especially with a thin tight end area. They were both hurt. You had Kittle, who was hurt, and you had Darren Waller, who had a good year, just not great compared to Kelce. I mean, there was no one really else in the conversation with him or competitive to him, especially when you're talking about a guy who was neck and neck in receptions and yards almost all year. So. And then we have someone new chiming in saying Kelce was the fourth best position player in FSA leagues. Again, yes, he was there, right there with Diggs, up there in the conversation of top players, just barely passed within the last week when he was sat. So I believe Devontae Adams is up there in that conversation.
Yeah, I know Damien's gonna chime in a second with the the Devonte Adams talk.
Well, I mean, he has every right to.
I'm sitting here looking at the points now.
You have to take out quarterbacks, is what that means by the
So
position players are.
he was second. Oh wait, no. I'm sorry. Yeah, fourth behind
But
Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, and Alvin Kamara.
they
Wait,
chime back in
no.
and say they agree with the dynasty take of Kelsey. I assume this is with him dropping and getting closer to the other tight ends within the league in Pitts, Waller, and Kittle. I wouldn't necessarily say a sell high right now, but it's starting to look that way as he's getting up there in age. It's not an end all be all anymore at Kelsey. There are other viable options, especially in a dynasty setting, because of the age and the longevity. You also have to look at all the weapons around Kelsey as they get better and grow with Mahomes, especially if the run game starts to take off with CEH being there. I know people thought that it would have done better last year, but just too many weapons uh, all around to focus on. And Damien says age doesn't affect tight ends like other positions. I would agree if it was a normal tight end and not an overused weapon like Kelsey, as in Gronk's position. I believe that they're in the same conversation. If it's somebody that's not asked to do much, then yes, because then you have guys like your Wittens, your Owens, your Grahams that do stick around a lot just because their production isn't as high game in and game out. But when you're talking about the elite level in Gronk and Kelsey and Kittle, age and wear is a factor, just as a receiver would be.
Yeah, like I'm gonna say. So how old is Gronk right now?
Um, I want to say 32, but I could be wrong. I don't really know off the top of my head.
So, well, okay. So first of all, we know Gronk is older than Kelsey, but we know what level Gronk was playing at when he was kind of in his prime when him and Brady were up in New England. And I mean, you look at Gronk now, like yes, he can get the job done, but he's not putting up the numbers that Kelsey's putting up. And if you hold Kelsey to the standard that he's at now, it's gonna drop eventually.
And Damien says he disagrees that Gronk was riddled with injuries and not a fair comparison. I'm saying the comparison is in the ask of the tight ends. Gronk and Kelsey is the same. So to think that Kelsey is immune to injuries and age is disbelief because of what we've seen happen to Gronk. You know, Gronk didn't start out riddled with injuries, and it's not like a switch that just happens. Is like there's a snowball effect. So as soon as you start to see one, especially as the age gets higher, you're gonna see it happen more often than not.
You also have somebody like where
And
does his name
Kelsey's
go?
31.
Yeah. Also Gronk is 31 as well. Here you have somebody like Jared Cook. If we're talking about, riddled with injuries, Jared Cook only missed one game last season. And New Orleans did use him a fair amount, but he was 19th. And I mean, New Orleans had to use him because Michael Thomas was out all season.
Jordan Reed is another guy you can say riddled with injuries for him too. Another guy you can say in the same conversation is Tyler Eifert, a big guy, overused a lot within the Bengals, was looked to be like the next big thing out of the tight end position, kind of fizzled out because of injury.
Jimmy Graham. Jimmy
Yeah.
Graham did good at in New England. Or not New England, I'm sorry. Did good in New
No,
Orleans.
yeah. He was you guys' top target for a long time.
Yeah. He was our top target, and then New Orleans decided to sell him and just kind of
He was,
fell
I,
off.
I believe he was one of the first, if not only so far, tight end to try to be franchise tagged as a receiver for the money. They try to tag him as a tight end, and if you franchise tag somebody, it's an average of the top 10 paid players within that position. But he said his value to the team is more of a receiver, so he tried to make the same as the top 10 receivers in the league.
He's
I
just as
don't think
good.
I've seen that since then,
He was just as good as a receiver.
and that was his argument.
Well, yeah, at the time though. Now he's 13th, so almost in the top 12.
Do we have any other questions as it pertains to Dynasty?
We do not have any other questions. If you guys in the stands, the fans, if you guys have any questions for us, feel free to ask them at this point before we decide to head on out of here.
Why don't you tell us about our next broadcasts?
Hold on. Doing stuff. I'm looking at points. And I have to scroll down over here. Jeez. I gotta get ready for
Damien
this
comes back and says, "Oh, what Reed should have been, poor guy." Yeah, I agree. Kind of wasted away, injury riddled with Washington. He did step in with San Fran when Kittle was hurt. He did score a touchdown with them, I believe. So, trying to do something.
All right. So, before we return to our regularly scheduled Average Bros show on April 20th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm going to cut myself off there because we have Mario here. Where would you guys draft Kyle Pitts in startup? Rumored to be drafted in top 10 rookie drafts. My personal opinion is I would have to wait till the actual NFL draft to find out where he goes to see if he's a good fit with that team and if they even are going to use him.
In a startup draft, I would take him in the first 3 rounds. As soon as I see Kelsey go, I take Pitts. As we mentioned, Kelsey's still, for me, 101 as far as tight ends go. He's the top of the list. Outside of that, then you have Kittle, who's coming off of injury, Waller, who is still up there but hasn't taken the next step to beat out any of those top guys, and obviously the aging Zach Ertz behind him. I think Pitts inserts himself in second behind Kelsey as far as a dynasty perspective goes. I think that just like Jimmy Graham was to the Saints as far as being a top receiver, Kyle Pitts is going to be for whatever team he lands on. I personally feel like he's best fit with the Bengals. So if he goes there, definitely somebody that I'm taking in the second round, where I see Kelsey going personally. As far as in a rookie draft, I see Pitts going in the top 5 or 6.
And we have Zach saying, backtracking to Fab, if you win a player, do you ever find out how much you overpaid or if you overpaid?
No, it's a blind bid, so you do not. The other bids do not get taken.
Damien says, tight end takes the longest to develop from college to NFL. I would temper expectation.
I would agree normally if I didn't know Pitts' pure athletic ability and how much he has lined up outside at receiver. I would say I would agree if the players at tight end were more designated to block than receive, or receive than blocking, or trying to position them to learn whatever one they don't do well. Everybody knows that Pitts is more of a receiver than a blocker. He's just a bigger guy. That's why he plays the tight end position. He can block, but he's not great at it. But whatever team that he's going to, I doubt will ask him to do much of it because they're probably in need of a receiver help anyway. So I don't think that should matter too much when we're talking about Pitts. Outside of that, I would probably agree.
And finally, we have Chester chiming in saying, "What? Waller should be second in Dynasty." I will be the first one to tell you that my average brother Kevin here is fairly crazy with his opinions here.
I put Waller third. I put Waller over Kittle because of the injury, but behind Pitts and Kelsey. I think if Kittle didn't get re-injured last year, I would still put Waller fourth. I think that if you look at the game that Kittle came back, he still put up 30 fantasy points when he came back. But he just re-injured himself and was out again. So
I'm looking at it right here. So Kittle played week 1, out 2 and 3, came back in week 4 and scored 45 points. So that was pretty impressive. He was out from week 9 till week 15 and then came back and only scored 15 points for the last 2 games of this season.
Yeah. So if you stretch that out, then, and he can hold up that 40-point game that he had without the injury-riddled middle of the year, probably pretty decent. We will probably finish number 2 and contest for the first spot, but because of the injury, he falls behind Pitts, who I believe is going to have a monster year. Personally, that's my hope because that's who my target is in the rookie draft. So, gotta be hopeful there.
Well, not in Charlie.
No, because I have no picks there. No, I'm talking about Delta.
And we have Mario saying Pitts in Dynasty, you get 10 plus years. Just that alone puts him in the conversation. I think that puts, a lot of people in the conversation is just all on their age.
Yeah, I think that just all depends on the longevity. I don't really look at years that long when I'm looking at the rookies, just because you really can't project a player staying in the league 10 years and 10 years healthy. You just can't. So for me, I'm looking at 3 to 4. Realistically, in Dynasty, you only need to win back-to-back to get the progressive pot. So that's where I'm at.
All right, Kevin, it's time to get out of here. Let's wrap this up. And Damien's just keeping on with the comments coming, talking about Jordan Howard and OJ Howard.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about them.
Both busts.
Wrap things up here, bud.
Before we return to our regularly scheduled Average Roast Fantasy Show on April 20th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, check out the flagship program with Brian and my average brother, Kevin, on the Fanatically Royal broadcast next Wednesday on April 21st at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Make sure you guys are there, definitely, so you guys can find out if you won the giveaway or not. As well as catch the Empty Wagon Guys this Saturday at midnight Eastern Standard Time on April 16th. And if you guys are unable to watch us live, check us out on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, anywhere you can find us for your listening pleasures. Trademarked by Average Kevin. Thank you guys for watching the Average Roast Fantasy Show, sponsored by Football, Darts, and Fantasy Sports Alliance. If you guys like the show, please like, share, and subscribe to the show, and follow us on all of our social media outlets, which you can see here at the bottom of the screen. And like I said at the beginning of the show, if you guys are not signed up to the giveaway, please sign up. Head on over to fantasy_sports_alliance and follow the channel, as well as share it to Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and make sure you tag us in it so we know that you guys did it and we can enter you in, and you can possibly win a t-shirt, as well as get 10% off our limited edition Quan for the Win, Angry Commish, or Let's Go t-shirt using code FANATIC. Just head on over to fsa-fr.com and get yourself some above average merch. And of course, before we head on out, I would like to thank our sponsors: QB54, Monkey Knife Fight, Nature Coast Tailgating, Cranky Veteran Candle Company, Shalamel's Boutique, Finger Lakes Mercantile, Southern Sirens Sugar Scrub, Redwood Durables, and of course, the Recast, who are the official music of the FSA. Kevin, any final words?
That is all for myself. Make sure you guys check in to our shows next week as we start to ramp up ahead of both the rookie drafts, the startup drafts, and as always, the always fun NFL draft to see where Kyle Pitts goes and how happy I am when I take him in the rookie draft. Outside of that, Damian, please go kick rocks, and I wish you no luck.
Everyone, I'm Average Josh. That's just Kevin. And stay average.